Okay, guys, how you doing? Come in. This is BOWTalk with your host, QUEENJAII. And I almost just drew. So, this is the first...
Technical difficulties.
Sorry about that. This is the first episode of BOWTalk. And I know it's a little different than you guys are used to, our listeners. However, we are now switching it up because I'm on my own, guys. But not necessarily on my own. However, today's episode is basically about emotional and mental real estate. And today I have two people here with me. One you are familiar with and one you are not. So, again, it's QUEENJAII, your host. And there's Allie. Woo! Say what up, Allie.
How y'all doing?
There's Allie and Miss Teeny. Hi. Welcome. So we're going to talk about emotional real estate today. Emotional and mental real estate. And basically, what we were just playing by Elijah Frazier is literally called emotional and mental real estate. And we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how we've experienced having to learn the lesson of valuing our emotional and mental health and state. We are going to talk about evaluating the people around you. We are going to talk about healthy and unhealthy relationships and the red flags, how to catch them, and what to do. Sound good? Sounds good. So let's jump into the thick of it. All right. So here we go. We also have DJ Most High, which is my homeboy, my bro Cam. He's on the panel tonight. Say what up, Cam. Unmute your mic. What up? So, you know what? Let's start with Cam since she's not in the room. Cam, can you tell us how you feel like you go about conducting yourself? Like, how do you feel like you manage your emotional and mental health and value with other people in relationships with other people? Like, how do you manage your mental and emotional real estate?
So, Jay, that's actually a very good question. Number one, the first thing that my number one would have to be through God.
Okay. Number one would have to be through God. That's a good one. Of course. That's the best one if you ask me. So talk about it. Like, when you have relationships with people, right? And you're evaluating your friendships, your relationships, your family relationships. What is something that stands out to you that you feel like is a red flag that tells you that you need to manage a person differently?
I would honestly have, so there's like a lot of things that I can like share off that, but I would honestly have to also say, their actions, right? The way they are, right? Based off the person that they are, if I know I need to manage differently around them, right? Cutting them off, cutting back, hanging with them, right? I mean,
what are red flags to you though? Like what are some things that you feel like maybe you've experienced in friendships where you've had to sit back and really analyze and learn that these people, the people that, or the person is not feeding you emotionally and mentally and giving back in return and reciprocating what it is that you give as an individual to them.
And let me add to that. It doesn't have to be just like friend. Like it could be any relationship.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be friendship. It could be your relationship with your, like, I know you personally don't have children, but it could be a relationship with your children. It can be a relationship with your mother, your father. It could be a relationship with your siblings. Like, what is a red flag in your life that you feel like told you, okay, it's time for me to basically kick you out of my property? Like, you don't get to dwell in my space anymore. I have to love you from a distance. Can you give us an example of like maybe a friendship or relationship that you've had, or like I said, it doesn't have to be a friendship. It could be family related, where you felt like you had to take a step back in order to self-preserve?
Yes. So, a situation occurred to where I honestly had to take a step back from my previous significant other, to where like it was more of like, you know, how can I put it to you? So more or less so like if I would give 100%, like 110% into the relationship, and she would only give like 20%, right? Where it wasn't something that was working. If that makes sense to you, like,
yeah,
it wasn't something that was going to grow. So, like, I began to see a lot of like red flags, right?
Right.
Not talking. Anytime when, you know, we would schedule to go on a date or whatever, she would constantly cancel. She became very private and everything else, right? So that was a number one thing for me that I was just like, you know what? I have to take a step back from you and reevaluate, where's this relationship going to go, right? Am I going to continue, or am I just going to say bye-bye, have a nice night?
Right. And I feel like that's fair. Like you said, there were signs, though. There were signs. So the signs you stated were distancing herself, being really private, and what was the other? I think you named like two more.
I done forgot both of those.
It's okay. But anyway, I felt like
He was saying pulling away.
Pulling away.
Yes.
I feel like one of the things that I would say would be a red flag is not taking into consideration the other person. Like, when someone is no longer considering your feelings and everything is about them and how they feel, to me, that's a red flag.
Yes.
If I try to express to you what's going on with me and you turn it into an I statement, there's something wrong. Especially when it happens over and over and over again. That's something that I've experienced.
And I hear that it's similar from my end, where it'll start with I feel. But then like it'll start off okay, and then by the end it'll be like, yeah, because it's your fault.
Right. And it's like, how did we get here? Like, I don't know. I feel like it's like that. I've dealt with a lot of gaslighting in my life. So whether it was with family, friends, co-workers, I feel like whenever you are building a relationship and you start to notice that at one point you could talk to someone and have a conversation, and another point it was like talking to a wall, there has to be a shift. And I feel like one of the things that I feel like it becomes a red flag when you try to address it and it doesn't get better. Like, to me, that's a true sign of I don't care how you feel.
And it'll get to the point where you're exhausted.
Right. And it's like you gotta pull back. And I've experienced that in my childhood. I've experienced that in adulthood. I've experienced that in different settings in life. But the one thing that is consistent with that, I think, is literally the fact that of being unheard. Like, I'm pretty sure Cam told his ex-girlfriend how he was feeling before he just...
We don't know what that was.
You know what I mean? So, Cam, did you tell her how you felt before you decided to...
On it, and he didn't even put a label. Excuse me.
Right. No, he did. He said girlfriend. He said my ex. He said my ex.
Every single day, I literally express how I felt for days and for months, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that I have stated,
Mm-hmm.
which went into one ear and out the other, right? Just like we talk about with kids today, right? Like,
right.
Or something else, right? And everything goes in one ear and out the other, right? And where they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one individual that did not care, right? Like, it was literally, as long as she was getting, right, what she wanted,
Mm-hmm.
she didn't about anything else, right? So then I said, okay, since that's the way how we're going to do things, I'm going to do it like this. I don't care what you want, what you don't want, nothing. I mean, that's the only way to really get a person to understand, right? The way how you feel as a human, right? In my opinion, we all have feelings,
Mm-hmm.
right? We all have ways that we feel, but the question is, just because we're given that 100%, the 110%, does that mean that you're going to stop caring as a person? Does it mean that you're going to get better? Or is it going to get worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like, and you're like, and wedding vows, right? You take a vow for better or for worse, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In my personal opinion, it's hand in hand with it. Why? Because when you're in a relationship with somebody, you're like agreed to be there, do all things. But how can we if we're not allowed to be ourselves or to really
be reciprocated?
Yeah, it's not being reciprocated. It's not a two-way street. Now Martina's sitting here shaking her head. So we're gonna move on over to Martina. Miss Teeny. What you got to say, girl? Cause you shaking your head, girl.
I have to disagree.
Okay, that's okay.
And the reason why I have to disagree is because now that it becomes a problem with responsibility, and it becomes a problem when it becomes tit for tat. The reason why I say responsibility is because you have to take responsibility for yourself. It is not your responsibility to go and try to change a person based on mirroring what they are doing now, because you become the problem. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You become the problem now. I think it's a me thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to work on self.
Okay.
And about love language, because while you think that you're doing what this person wants you to do, you can actually be doing the exact opposite.
That's true.
Right? And when you're mirroring them, you're not helping the situation.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually causing the situation to become more toxic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you're supposed to talk to them and explain to them exactly what it is that you're looking for.
Okay.
And if that person is not listening,
Mm-hmm.
right, then you need to head out.
Yeah.
All that, because at this point, that person is deliberately showing you that they no longer, but now if that person is trying to fix it,
Right.
and the person is deliberately not listening and going forward, then guess what? It's time to head out. Like,
right.
I'm not about to sit up here and go back and forth with you about a dead situation. And I think that's what people do.
Mm-hmm.
They continue to deal with people that they are pouring into
Mm-hmm.
that is not capable.
Like in hopes of.
Right. The potential of, right?
And you can't be in a relationship with potential.
You can't be in the, exactly.
You got a point.
Right? So I think that is the foundation of a lot of the reasons why people end up, especially in marriage, with somebody because they're looking at the potential of the person and not who they really are.
Now,
if you can't deal with them right now, in this situation, right this very moment, then what makes you think that person is going to be Like,
and that's why it's so important to evaluate a person based off of where they're at and not where you want them to be.
Exactly.
And I feel like we all make that mistake. I've made that mistake in relationships, whether, like I said, family related, friendship related. It's like a person can present themselves as one thing, but eventually it's going to wear off. And you have to, you can only hide. Right. Eventually the mask falls off. And then you have to evaluate the relationship and the person.
Now, this is not the person who I knew. They're not acting in the way that I remember
or recognize.
Yeah. And it's like, well, that wasn't the person to begin with. The signs were there. They were showing you when you were trying to pour your heart out, and it was me. Mm-hmm. They were showing you when you was going through something, and they didn't show up when they were supposed to. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We're not talking about what you like. Like, people have some type of spectrum or something as to, I think, how a person is supposed to show up. Like, if I show up, but I don't, lay down with you in a bed and cry with you and boo-hoo and
then it's like, I'm not there. I don't care. I'm not there for you.
But you're emotionally unavailable, right? But then if this person has been there for 500,000 years with you through hell and high water, and today you just be like, you know what? I need time to myself.
Right.
I can't do this because you're emotionally draining me, and at this point, I've been here for you, but mama, I just need, now all of a sudden, you ain't a friend no more, or now all of a sudden, your significant other feel like you just, ain't being there for them anymore. Like that's a problem, because
now it's time for you to see me, and you can't see me the way I've seen you through things.
It's reciprocation.
Yeah,
people don't seem to have it.
You know what? I thought about this, and I was thinking so hard. I said, when we were kids, do y'all remember being little, and it was like a rule? It was like, treat people the way you want to be treated. Period. I feel as though as a child it is a rule. However, as an adult, it is an option. And once it becomes an option, we live in a world where people don't treat you how they want to be treated. They treat you how they want to treat you. Mm-hmm. According to how they feel. But I feel like if you got tickets for treating people the way that you wanted to versus how you want to be treated, people would pay. If you had to pay for that, people would treat people the way they wanted to be treated. But because it is no longer
unless they got the money to pay the tickets.
Right. But because it's not a rule in our lives, like when we're children, we don't know that it's an option. Because whenever we don't do it, someone reprimands us and says, treat people the way you want to be treated. You don't do that. Is that how you want to be treated? And did you like that? Did you not like that? Or why would you do that? And you go down this list, and you tend to get, and as children, usually the adult who is saying this to you is actually trying to get to the root of why it is you acted in this manner. And I feel like as adults, we lose the sense of deflating the situation and assessing it in totality in order to get to the root of the problem, to come to a resolution. Instead of that, it's just a poke. You did this, you did that, you did this, you did that. And it's like, okay, but why are you feeling this way? What is causing this? What is the cause of your actions? And I feel like we lose that as adults. And it's like some of us are just the kids that still act like, treat us the way you want to be treated. And then there's the ones that just don't. And the ones that treat people the way they want to be treated are far in between. Like they're few and far between. Mm-hmm. So it sucks, but it's true. And I feel like if we just got back to that, we'd be doing so much better. Thank you, was it Mace? Mace Gala. Thank you so much gifting us. We appreciate you.
And honestly, I have to agree on that, because like even in like some of the situations, right, where if we try to go way into, like, for example, right, if you go into the school, right,
mm-hmm.
How many kids you see? Oh well, you see, he started saying this, so I did this, right? Mm-hmm. No, treat people the way that you want to be treated, right? You want to be treated with respect, then you got to give respect. Right?
And I feel like elders, I feel like even in families,
That's the truth.
Family dynamics are really screwed up sometimes. Because as children, yes, we are to, embrace our elders and we are to respect our elders. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I truly do believe in that. However, if you are an elder and you want to be treated as an elder, then treat others like you are an elder and treat and have respect for yourself and others and project what you want to be reciprocated to you. You can't be my elder and be yelling at me about how I'm presenting myself or what I'm doing, and yet your actions and the way that you speak are not not even close to the equivalent of what you're speaking out of your mouth.
You're talking about.
You're expecting something you're not giving.
You're talking about the other half of the Bible verse.
Especially
nobody.
Yes, especially what is the Bible? It's a scripture. The scripture says, oh my gosh, what is the scripture? Somebody help me out. It's about obeying your parents.
It's basically like children can't say no to their parents or treat their parents with respect, but they don't say the other half.
Right. It's basically don't bait your right. Say it again.
It's something in the beginning about not saying no to the parents or being respectful to your parents, but the other half is
father and thy mother.
Yes, honor thy father and thy mother. But the other half of that quote is to not provoke your children to be angry.
Right.
And that's the part that everybody like to leave out. If you provoke me, you're gonna get a reaction. Point blank, period. And it doesn't matter how old I am. Like, even it's like we grow up and we go from being children to being adults, and then the adults that were in our lives choose that they'll treat us like children sometimes. And then when we tell them, no, we're not children, we have thoughts, we have opinions, we have minds, then all of a sudden it's a problem and we're disrespectful. But you need to respect me as a person and respect that I have ideas and that I have thoughts and I'm a human being. When I was a child, you treated me as such, but now I am no longer a child, and you need to treat me as an adult and respect me as a person. And I feel like that goes a really long way. And I try so hard because of that experience in my childhood to make sure that with my children, I always treat them with the basic respect of just being a human being. They're having their thoughts, having their opinions. Just because you got an opinion don't mean, or your wants don't mean that it's going to be met. But you are allowed to have them and be heard and be spoken to. And like, if I make mistakes, it is okay for me to apologize. Like, I feel like my mother and father's generation and before there, it's like their generations, it was like parents couldn't be wrong. Y'all ever get told, like, your parents ever be like, you calling me a liar? And it's like, well, yeah, you lying, but I can't say it. I can't say it. It's like, I can't say that you lying, but it's like, but why can't I say that you're lying? Because you're lying.
That makes me grateful for my father, because I told him straight to his face at 8 years old that he was being foolish.
That
makes me grateful that he listened.
I'm going to piggyback off of that, because you know what that turns into in relationships outside of that, or even with family members. That's when you start dealing with triggers and you start dealing with trauma, responses. Because these are things that you're still in infancy in your responses to things, or you've been through so much turmoil concerning communication, whether you shut down because what you're saying wasn't important to the person or whatever it is. And then you end up in a position where you don't know how to deal with relationships.
Right.
Because you're triggered by certain things that happen to you, whether it be your partner is speaking over you, or you're not being heard, and you feel like, you gotta yell and you gotta scream in order to get your point across. Or if it be that, in friendships where, it's all about you at the point where, you feel like you just got to get something out and you can't get it out because you feel like the other person is just overbearing over you, and then you just shut down because that's what you're used to, right? No matter what the circumstances is, you got to understand that these responses is not your own. That this is your environment that has caused you to do this, and anything you practice, you get good at. So if you practice talking over people because you feel as though you wasn't heard, then that becomes a problem for you later. Because then when you're talking to somebody, you're making them feel so small because they can't even get a word out because everything is me. I need to get this out. I need to let people know what I want to hear. And now it becomes a cycle. And you wonder why you single by yourself or family don't want to deal with you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be right.
Now we're gonna sum this up because we're gonna make our first episode 30 minutes. We ain't gonna drag it. But I want to wrap it up to bring it to full circle. Because you said something, you said trauma, and you said you choose when you practice it.
Right.
Now you may not be in control of what it is that traumatized you. However, you are in control of what you do about your trauma.
That's right. Your response.
You may not be able to control the response at first, but if you work on controlling that response, that is where the healing begins.
Like basically, after you gotta be at least out of your parents' house. Yeah, you're responsible for every reaction that you do.
Because you can't blame your mama for everything for the rest of your life. Don't get me wrong, you can say like, yeah, this is why I'm like this. But it cannot stay the excuse.
Not anymore, because now you're
because once you make awareness, once you gain awareness, you can't use it as an excuse anymore.
And conviction.
Awareness and conviction. Yes, that's it. That's it.
Now, but if you choose to still do the same thing, it's a hamster wheel. Then now it's your problem, no longer mine. And guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna head out.
Head out.
I'm gonna head out
because we are not gonna sit on that hamster wheel.
Right, and you do not have to. You do not have to put yourself through that. And what I've learned in the relationships in my life is that I do not have to put myself in a position to be dealt with a certain way just because I love you.
That's it.
And that's it.
And that is where knowing the worth of your emotional and mental real estate comes in.
That's it.
Because as Elijah Frazier said, if you have someone who is squatting, have someone who is renting a home that you have, and they're not paying rent, they are now squatting. Where's the reciprocation?
Oh, no.
If there's no reciprocation.
We're not just talking about paying rent. We're talking about that you're definitely keeping that property nice and tidy.
That's right.
You're definitely making sure that those connections are together.
Cut the grass.
Shingling, the grass is done, the HOA is popping.
Right. And that's where the reciprocation is. But you have to be aware of it. And I think that it's always a learning process, especially if you have trauma in those areas. But it's not something that you can't overcome, and it's not something that you can't work on.
That's it.
And you got to learn your coping skills too. But we're going to talk about that. Huh?
So I said you can overcome anything, right? There's no situation that's ever permanent, no matter what kind of trauma it's been, right? There's nothing that's permanent, right? Everything that happens is temporary.
Right. Everything and I mean, not everybody listening is gonna be a Christian. You know what I'm saying? But for us who are,
however it applies to you,
find a source of peace for yourself and hold on to it, because the world will rip you to shreds if you do not protect your peace. And a part of protecting that peace is knowing your worth and telling you. People think that that's another mistake. We all think that people are just supposed to know how to treat us. But if you don't tell somebody how to treat you and you don't treat yourself that way, then you can expect other people to treat you that way, because people will only do to you what you allow them to do. So you have to also be aware and accountable for allowing people to be that comfortable with you to treat you that way.
So, real quick, can you repeat that for the people in the background that couldn't hear
Be
you?
aware. We out here. Okay? We hit at 29 minutes and 26 seconds. So, what o'clock? Be humble. Be kind. This is your host, Queen J. We've got Allie. We've got Miss Tina. And we've got my bro, Cam. Hey!
And health is wealth.
Health is wealth. So, we're going to come back with this part 2. Hope you guys join in and tune in for part 2. And we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us, Cam.
Always. You already know.
Much love.